The club season's only just finished.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
Which is quite strange. But then, of course, you glance over to the other side of the world, and in Major League Soccer, Zlatan Ibrahimovic is scoring bicycle kicks. I think
Bike
when does it
kicks.
end?
Bike scoring a bike, as it's been.
A bicycle, as they call it over there.
We have different terminologies, gentlemen.
Do they? If you were Zlatan Ibrahimovic, would you have pushed the ball from out of your radius to get a bit more purchase with your chest instead of going straight away with the bikey?
I think what he did was quite effective.
It was. I mean, it went in. So could the keeper have done better? That's all I'm saying.
I mean, it's a fair comment.
I'm just saying he's slowing down a bit.
Would you bring in VAR to determine whose mistake it was?
I love that.
Or
That's
we
your
just have
takeaway
replay
from
for
it.
that?
He scores an overhead kick at what, 35, 36? It's not like he's slowing down.
Slowing down.
He's slowing down.
Slowing down.
Keeper might have done better. Anything else happened over the weekend?
Nah.
Go on
To
then.
be honest, very a little.
Liverpool, yes, their 6th European Cup / Champions League. Only AC Milan and Real Madrid have won more. Milan have only just won one more. Real Madrid way out in front with 13.
They won the first 5, though, didn't they? Which were like
Yes.
4-team tournaments
I
in
think
some
take
cases.
that. I think take that away.
I agree.
Klopp very much claiming this 6, isn't he? He's very big into the 6. He's doing a lot of hand movements.
lot of people were doing that.
He has been busy since the final. We nearly fell off the bus. Did you see that?
No, he didn't fall off the bus. He fell into the bus, which is completely
Right.
different.
Well, I thought for the video I saw with there was one where he poured beer on Rhian Brewster, which was brilliant, and one where he was like hanging over the side and he sort of had a little bit of a slip.
He
and
had a
just
bit of a
pulled
slip.
back
But
in.
oh, right, maybe he was. I don't know.
Well, like I
maybe
say,
there
he's
was
been doing
few
a
of them,
lot. He
yeah.
probably did both.
He constantly had a bottle of booze in his hand. Right throughout the weekend.
Oh, he must feel terrible right now.
I think he feels pretty good with him.
Yeah.
Jurgen Klopp is at the moment he's like Caesar.
Yeah.
He's like the king of Europe. It's absolutely
Oh, it's
glorious.
great.
I'm so happy for that man.
Yeah.
So many. I mean, he ended a run of six
Sexy.
sexy final defeats. Successive final defeats is what I'm bloody trying to say. He wins his first trophy with Liverpool, major trophy with Liverpool, and first European trophy for himself as well. But yeah, the way he's doing an interview, but very, very nice in mentioning he knows how Spurs felt and didn't, run onto the pitch and go wild. Very much shaking Pochettino's hand, had a word with him, and he said, "I feel relieved." More than absolute jubilant.
I think every neutral felt like that at the end of that match.
Yeah,
It was the soccer aid of
classic,
finals, wasn't it?
My
Well, at
goodness.
least
Everyone
in
looking
soccer
ar-
aid, like you might have Woody Harrelson scoring a penalty and go, "Well, that's weird." But they didn't even have that.
There's a lot of Woody Harrelsons on that pitch. Like people who look like, have you played for a little while? Have you?
Well, they haven't, have they?
No, that's the problem.
I would have, I thought to myself, won't someone think of the neutral here?
Yeah, and there were a lot of neutrals.
There was an awful lot of neutrals. I mean, to be fair to Liverpool, it's easy to sort of slag it off. You get that goal, and I know it wasn't brilliant. There's much chat about how their pass completion was really, really low. I mean, Jonathan Wilson wrote an excellent piece, as he tends to do, and saying that Liverpool's pass completion was 64%, which is over the course of the season in terms of Cardiff. It's 0.1% more than Cardiff over the course of the season and less than any other Premier League side. So it shows you how low it was in the final.
Yeah.
And I know that they weren't brilliant and it took them a while to get the second. However, I would also suggest that it was a very mature performance for Liverpool because they didn't need to do that much.
Well, absolutely, because they got the penalty really early on, which is a really funny one, that, because when I saw it where I was, you couldn't really hear the commentary, and on first glance, it looked like it was a scandalous decision to award a penalty, but then actually seeing it a few more times, like, okay, I kind of see how that's happened.
Well,
So
I'm surprised we didn't see more kind of like think pieces of going, this is an absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, them's the rules, and we can't really complain about.
Yeah.
We can only.
Well,
sort of
Glenn Hoddle
when
complained
it's-
about it.
Did he? Well, Chris Waddle's gone crazy on the radio as well.
All
but
the experts,
all the
men.
experts,
and understandably as well.
Well, it was just a really rubbish way to really stink up the match.
It
really
reminded
early
me-
on, and then Sissoko spent most of the match trying to get something back. He was like hitting shots from way out and kind of flattering to deceive a little bit. It was really, I felt for Sissoko for the first time in my life, I think.
It was such a shame because he's pointing.
Yeah.
He's pointing and it does hit his chest first.
Yes,
but his arm is.
How can you? Yeah, it's in a natural position.
It is a tricky, but this is the problem with the rules. We're quite unsure of what's
I think
going
the
on.
unnatural position thing isn't in the rule, is it?
I don't even
let's
know
have a look.
anymore.
Jim,
They
I
keep
don't-
changing it. We'll read the rules at the start of next season,
Yes.
and then we'll
We
reset.
should just hammer them into the wall in the studio, just so we've always got them to hand.
Well, the penalty was given, and Salah tucked it away. But really, the dynamic didn't change that much. There was a
No.
little tiny flurry where Spurs, in the sort of midway through the second half and towards the end, had a few efforts. And Alisson, who was the man of the match, was brilliant, even though there were saves he's expected to make, but you've still got to
the save
make
from
them.
Moura was big.
Exactly, yeah.
But
And-
I think a lot of Spurs' chances were sort of from distance, weren't they? Because I think Liverpool marshalled them very, very well. A Spurs fan I know posted on Facebook after the game, I got to enjoy that for 24 seconds. And I sort of do feel for them in that
Yeah.
sense. But like, it did feel like Liverpool just adapted to having that very, very like good piece of fortune early on, and they almost felt like the senior team in the game, didn't they? They just took control of it
They
and,
were the
and managed it.
They were the favourites, but I think the most disappointing thing was the yellow cards thing. Possibly there didn't seem to be a lot of not fight, but nobody was snapping at anyone's heels. It never turned into anything more frenetic than a bit of a training match for me. It was disappointing to see that.
Like the Europa League final, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That air of like pre-season friendly, or like a sort of Premier League game in February.
Again, players who just haven't played for a while. It really, really looked like that, and it was just, I don't know.
Well, should he started Kane? I mean, that was the big. I mean, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Of course, with these situations, he looked like he was a little bit unfit. I mean, we'll come on to this in a bit, but
fit or unfit, he didn't have any chances.
Well, exactly.
Well,
I
it's
think
very
Spurs
difficult.
struggled to get him into the game.
I just wonder. I actually, talking to Glenn Hoddle, I actually agreed what Hoddle said about that. He said Kane from the bench would have been a good option because if they need something, bring him on, and that actually would give Liverpool something to think about. Thinking, oh, blimey, here he comes. I mean, Lucas Moura. I'm glad Origi got his moment of being the hero in the semi-final.
I mean, the way he's going at the moment, in 20 years, he'll be the manager.
He loves it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But with Spurs, I don't know. I think that I understand what he went with when you've got two big centre halves in Matip and Van Dijk, who are very good, in particular Van Dijk. So let's get Kane up there as one of the best centre forwards in the world and give them something to think about. But the way it was going, it clearly it wasn't. The problem is, though, after a minute, as Pochettino said, the whole plans are ripped up.
Yeah.
You've spent weeks and weeks.
But I thought Pochettino didn't panic when that went in, when the penalty went
That's
in.
the trouble with one of those goals, is because it kind of it doesn't happen after 15 minutes where you kind of go, oh right, okay, we've settled into we know what we're doing.
It's
kind
like
of
you start with a handicap, isn't
completely
it? It's really weird.
and it's kind of like, all right, kick off, all right, let's start again, and then the dynamic sets in which it's kind of 0-0, but it's not. We need a goal, don't we? And I actually thought he may bring on more at half time, because I thought the way I keep using the word dynamic, but forgive me, but the way the dynamic of the game was set, I thought Liverpool are not going to try and disrupt this. They are defending. They're actually playing quite a high line, and Spurs were trying to get the ball in behind or over the top for runners, but that ended up just looking like long balls, and the big boys just heading it away all day, which was pretty easy for them.
And Moura's running's quite a bit more. He's definitely a bit more mobile.
Oh, he's
than
much
Kane,
more mobile than
obviously,
Kane on any day of the
but
week.
he does some fantastic runs.
Sure.
And pulls defenders, and that was kind of what you needed.
I
think.
agree. I think that you could have had Son and more almost like a front two, perhaps Eriksen sort of dropping a little bit deeper, perhaps, and Ali in there as well, and more obviously what he did in the semi-final. A bit more mobile, just get it to feet. Yeah, exactly. Because I thought it was a brave move playing Winks. He thought, no, we're going to try and keep the ball.
He played well. Eriksen, it was Eriksen and Ali's just had off days, and when they're having off days, you're all down to Son, and every now and again he dropped the ball, and you're like, mate, like, you're the most comfortable two-footed footballer in the Premier League, and you're messing up every now and again. You're like, wow, like this is a really subpar performance from Spurs, and it was really sad to see.
And I think that's it. It just from Spurs' point of view, it's kind of. Just, and it's almost a bit like what Liverpool had last season when they looked good, they started well, and Salah gets injured and goes off, and Lallana comes on, who hadn't played that much, and it just didn't look like the same game. And it was from Madrid, and of course the mistakes, and Liverpool come away thinking what could have been. But the incredibly impressive thing about Liverpool is straight back in the final the next season,
and with an incredible points tally in the Premier League as well. They have just back to being at the top table of European football very, very clearly, and also,
Two finals in a row.
Yeah, it's really, really something, isn't it? Because people keep talking about this being potentially the start of a bit of a sort of modern dynasty at Liverpool, and there's every chance that could happen. And Marcus, you and I were talking about this earlier. I think Jose Mourinho might have said it as well. Like, it feels like they could win a few more in years to come. And I wonder if Real Madrid doing 3 in a row has kind of kidded us all into thinking that is a bit more doable than it is, because no one had ever done it, retained it once before, let alone twice.
But Liverpool, but successive final shows you that they can do it.
Well,
that they could
maybe
retain the trophy. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be that outrageous to think they are so good, and Anfield is like a 12th man and all those other cliches. But the impressive thing I thought from Liverpool as well, coming back from last year's finals, this is the first time since the Champions League rather than the European Cup has been about, that Liverpool played as favourites in the final. If you think about it, in Istanbul, you look at that Milan side. They came back from the dead, of course, but they were very much
favourites at half time and all that much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wonder what the odds would have been then. And then when they played Milan again, they lost. They weren't favourites, despite what happened in Istanbul. When they played Real Madrid, they weren't favourites. There was that underdog, and so to be the favourites and then go 1-0 up and to not choke. To actually keep that performance, it shows you the maturity of that side. Definitely. I know it's boring for the neutral. Believe me, I wish that goal hadn't gone in. Partly because we didn't actually get to see Liverpool play the way they can.
No,
we
Spurs didn't pressure them into actually being Liverpool.
So we were almost robbed of a great Liverpool performance there. Not that Liverpool would care, and nor should they care, but it did show you the level of maturity in that side to manage that game and not panic. And it was.
I think that the magic moments were kind of like post-final whistle almost. Henderson's dad.
And
that
was
like,
beautiful.
God.
That was so lovely. And on a sort of very different tone from that, I suppose anyone that hadn't seen about that, Jordan Henderson's dad was very, very ill. For quite a while, and they shared this hug at the final whistle that just went on for ages and ages and looked so emotional. It was absolutely beautiful. And
I was
good luck to the Henderson family.
Absolutely big. But for Henderson, like, he'd spent so long sort of playing out of a position. He got handed the captaincy, massive long shadow after Gerrard left, and now
he had a lot of stick as well, didn't he?
Exactly. But Klopp has the most amount of respect for that player. He knows what he's got in his locker, and he's now playing in a system that kind of works for him. He's got a bit more freedom.
And he was excellent.
He's played various positions. I mean, for England, he was almost played as a deep line playmaker.
He was on the right for Liverpool at times. He'd say yes to everything. You know what I mean?
That is a great example of your passion and dedication and work and so on. And James Milner's another one as well. I'd say Milner's
came close to scoring. I'd have loved that. James Milner scoring in a Champions League final.
What a career Milner's had!
It's fantastic.
What a career! I mean, won a few things at Manchester City. He was kind of a utility man and a little bit part at times, perhaps more for maybe one or two people's liking. Go to Liverpool, and this is sort of like a swan song. I mean, he's taken the spirit of Gary McAllister, and he's times it by 3. Chapman, to see him lift the trophy.
He's a little bit younger.
He is actually. He's 33. McAllister was not 35.
But with Milner,
but I did say
is he going to be at the club next season? I mean, Liverpool have got some Hoyout decisions.
No. Klopp's going to keep Milner there. Sure. I mean, Klopp was talking about the importance of James Milner in his pre-match talks in the dressing room. So I think there's a player to have around the place. And look at his fitness.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
There's no way Milner's going anywhere.
Origi, is he going to be leaving?
Because it would seem harsh.
Klopp has said that he'll definitely sort of give him. I think he might have already been offered a new contract, actually.
Right.
So
okay. Will he play anymore?
Well, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because actually, he's shown that now, he was quite young when he joined Liverpool, isn't it? It's easy to forget that. And he's showing that he can actually do it on the big occasion. He's very, very
only on the
player.
big occasion.
But
literally only the big occasion.
So many of them, though.
Merseyside derby, Champions League semi-final, Champions League final. Other than that, give him some time
but
off.
Is he the sort of
save him for the big occasion?
Is he the sort of player though to knock on Jurgen Klopp's door and say, "I need to be starting more because I'm a goddamn footballer"?
No, I think he would be thinking
I've given
to
you
himself,
a Champions League, mate.
I think if I was Origi, I'd think to myself, do you know what? I'm happy to just sort of mooch around and then grab the headlines.
And that's why you're Leatherhead reserves and not Champions League final sunshine.
That's way down the list of reasons, I would say.
Sturridge, anyone?
Yeah, good old Daniel Sturridge.
Nice
to see him on the bench.
I would think. Yeah. One of the really heartwarming moments as well was Trent Alexander-Arnold and his mates. Did you see that? A couple of his mates got onto the pitch and he played a through ball to one of them to just smack it into the net.
Nice.
That is beautiful.
That's good. Dejan Lovren, he was cutting up the net.
Yeah, and Van Dijk as well. But didn't he? Those fat cats at City Hall not let them take it?
Probably.
I think they weren't allowed to do it.
That's annoying.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Take that little bit of net back and patch it up?
Eat it.
Eat
you
it.
You can have it in a day. If you want it back, you can have it in a day.
Is this how you get things out of places?
Yeah, exactly.
You swallow them and then retrieve them later.
I am going on holiday soon, please. Let's not talk about that.
If you do work at any of the airports of the UK, get your hand up there. Who knows what
Ooh.
Donaldson's got?
There's an
Oh,
old
wow.
microphone muff up here. At the end of every season, I cut up microphone muffs through the years.
Looks like a card addressed to me. But one of the geniuses of Klopp's management, and there's an awful lot, is keeping everybody happy.
Yes.
You saw the subs, like the likes of Shaqiri,
Mm.
Oxlade-Chamberlain, Ryan Brewster.
Yeah.
Shaqiri's been a bit part player and might have been slightly disappointed not to play a bit more, but he has contributed. Brewster's obviously a young lad, and Oxlade-Chamberlain hasn't really kicked a ball. And in perhaps the spirit of Rob Green, they have the way they were celebrating. You could have you could have thought, oh, did he play a part in this?
Well, the physio pointed out to Ryan Brewster that he hadn't played, didn't he? Did you see that?
No,
He was on the bus, just sort of,
loving it,
having a lovely time.
As he
He's like,
was
"Oi, how many games did you play in?" It's like, come on, mate.
Oh, mate, I'm a teenager and I've
Yeah.
got the best seat in the house to watch my team,
know.
which I'm presumably going to go on and star in. One would hope. Piss off.
Indeed.
That's why you're the physio, mate. But yeah, the squad harmony, Pete's rap name, it looks amazing. And Klopp said in post match, he said about what's going on at the club, and he said that he's all about the development of the team.
Yeah.
And he talked about understanding that winning things is important, but he also said people shouldn't ask all the time about winning and not winning, which is something that both managers have probably had. Klopp it's his first trophy as Liverpool manager, and Pochettino hasn't won something as Spurs manager. And this kind of, well, they haven't won anything. And Klopp saying, no. And I think the point he was sort of saying is the development is key.
Yeah.
And the byproduct of that is winning stuff. And I'm glad that he's won something, and I hope Pochettino wins something soon for Spurs, and I appreciate not everyone in the studio will think that. But just the fact is that this is a fantastic manager, and to question the whole kind of winning and that, it would be a shame if they didn't win anything.
At the same time, though, mate, what's he won? Yeah, no, I know.
The hearts and minds of many people in this footballing country.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. It's a sickener for Spurs, isn't it?
It is.
But again, what an achievement! Like, I've been talking to friends of mine who are Tottenham fans over the weekend as well, and I obviously have to feel a lot of sympathy for them because I know that feeling. Like when Arsenal got to the Champions League final and lost. Looking back on it, what's really interesting, and Spurs fans will probably have this right now once they sort of get over the initial disappointment of it and how much that stings, is that I still think about that Thierry Henry goal at the Bernabeu and Jens Lehmann's penalty save against Villarreal and Arsenal beating Juventus at home with Fabregas scoring that goal and it just being a really, really beautiful run. I think about those things all the time. And Spurs have their own versions of that. Like these really exciting games, the comebacks and just the nature of it, and smashing Dortmund like they did, and how they they looked kind of dead and buried in the group, but they came through it. So they'll always have those memories, and actually winning it would be brilliant. Of course it would, but they're still going to be there, and that's something to take away.
Yeah, I think
it means something.
I watched it with a few Spurs fans I know, and the feeling with them, and you have to be philosophical because Spurs aren't as big as Liverpool, where they are at the moment and the size of the club and the history, and that becomes more profound when you get into a.
You
final.
could see it in the nature of Liverpool's performance as well. They played the game rather than the occasion, and I don't think Spurs bottled it or anything. I don't think they did look nervous, but I think Liverpool just Spurs didn't really have an answer for Liverpool's containment.
And we have seen that this season, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like Liverpool didn't come at Spurs, so Spurs were a little bit like, oh, what do we do? What do we do?
But
we'll loft some balls up.
Yeah, but as we were saying this on the show before, that when you get to a final, the big team tends to go, just you remember, we're the big team. And especially when they're from the same country. And Liverpool, the history of that club, the feeling, hearing those fans sing "You'll Never Walk Alone" and all that, there's the weight of that supportership there. And I think that with Liverpool, they thought this is our final, this is our match. Whereas I say in previous finals, it's kind of like, oh, we're the underdog, but we can do something here. And they nearly have done, of course, in the case of Istanbul. Whereas Spurs, it was almost like Ajax was their final. To get to the final itself was the great achievement, and anything else was almost like a bonus, in a sense. I don't want to be patronising there, But with Spurs, they have to look philosophically when they lose the game. But they were saying, what an achievement to get to the final. It was a surprise. For Liverpool, haven't been in the final the previous year. Had they have lost the final, Liverpool would have been devastated. They wouldn't have said, another great achievement. And they'd have said, no, we should have won the game. And I think that's the difference between the two sides at the moment, you would say. But Klopp saying things like it's just the start of this group of players. This Liverpool team is exciting because when we've seen Real Madrid win this title, you thought to yourself, well, you didn't win the league. I know Liverpool didn't win the league, but they were a little bit off the pace.
I mean, they had the third highest points tally in Premier League history.
Exactly.
It's a weird anomaly.
Totally. When Real Madrid won it recently, they're full of canny, older operators. And clearly the cycle of that Madrid side has now come to an end. And probably the third Champions League win maybe papered over a few cracks, as did Ronaldo's goals and so on. Whereas this Liverpool side, it does feel like the start. And that is very exciting for Liverpool. And Jurgen Klopp, who's been there for a few years now, is saying, people are saying Klopp's dynasty has now just begun. And that's an extraordinary thing. Because normally when you win the Champions League, and there was talk of Pochettino might leave if you win the Champions League, because for some clubs it's not going to get any better than that. Or for Real Madrid, it's kind of like, right, off your pop, but you've won the cup. Zidane being an anomaly. Whereas for Liverpool, this is, as I say, just the start, and they could go on now and win a handful of trophies, although Manchester City will perhaps suggest otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, if they win a title soon, which you would expect, over the next 2 or 3 seasons, they'd have to be among the favourites to manage it with one of those. Then, I mean, what an incredible achievement that will be for them, given how long it's been since they've won the title and what an albatross that's become. Even though they've won everything else you can win, like in that time, and have been a successful club the whole time. I mean, that would put him among the greats.
Well, and Klopp could also put Liverpool back on their perch.
Absolutely. Can you imagine that?
But this is what's happening now. You see, for me, and perhaps yourselves, gentlemen, growing up, Manchester United were the biggest side in the 90s.
They were the biggest dog in the yard.
They were, definitely. And Liverpool were in the 80s, but
you hear that they had been that.
Exactly. And you know Liverpool are a great club and talk about the history and all that. Well, Klopp, old Brendan Rodgers, to be fair, and Rafa as well, and one or two others, had flickers of that.
Roy Hodgson.
Perhaps not, but it was very dormant under Roy Hodgson. You would say now Klopp has fully reawakened this whole kind of Liverpool, the glory of the club. Some will say, well, that's a ridiculous thing to say. It's always been there, but they've got this trophy now, and I think that they will now think they won't feel inferior in any kind of way, and they could go on now and, as you say, become that biggest dog in the yard.
I think people are scared of them again.
Yeah.
They've certainly got
You don't want to go
feeling.
to Anfield anymore,
No.
whereas in previous seasons, even under Klopp, you would think, we're going to Anfield, could maybe nick a point.
Yeah.
And I think Klopp's charisma has kind of again pipped over a lot of like PR cracks as well. I think he's managed the club impeccably, and he's an incredibly interesting person to listen to in post match and stuff. So I think he's an excellent figurehead for any football club.
Yeah, definitely.
And you kind of want Liverpool to win more than you necessarily would do in any other situation.
Yeah, it makes a difference having a thoroughly likeable chap at the head of a football club. Maybe more clubs
And
should
one
do
day
it.
this podcast might have that too.
Well, I would love to see the day.
But where does Pochettino go from here? Where does I think to be honest, where does Klopp go from here? You've won the biggest competition.
No, but we've got to win the league. Got to win the Premier
Exactly.
League.
Very, very
Exactly.
clear, isn't it?
But
Because he failed to do that this season.
well, exactly. So, but then Manchester City will Pep Guardiola's not gone anywhere this season. Can you see Manchester City relinquishing that?
Well,
it was.
Marcus and I were
it was
talking about
tight.
this. Like, do you think it's realistic to expect either team to get near to that points tally again? Because it's insane.
But hang on.
Absolutely mad.
But Liverpool, the season before last, finished 25 points behind Man City.
Well, exactly. That's kind of what I mean. I think surely City's standards they've been so consistent, but surely that cannot be kept up over that long time. can it?
We'll find out, won't
And
we?
I will be writing down the edit point where I play this next season. At around about this time.
When
Jim
Leicester
Campbell.
City and Brendan Rodgers have thought, hang on a minute, lads.
But Pochettino will never have a better chance of winning the European Cup, do you think?
Maybe not at Spurs, because you never know what the future will hold for him.
or possibly at any other club, really. And also, they're not going to get anywhere near.
Well,
in the league,
Pochettino could land a massive. He could be Real Madrid manager one day.
What does Pochettino do if he stays at Spurs next year?
I think they go again, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's
use a modern parlance. It's been a brilliant season for Spurs.
It's been excellent.
They would never have expected to get to the Champions League final. I would think like realistically. And this is the thing with Spurs that Pochettino has instilled in them. They just don't know when they're beaten.
No.
And obviously the circumstances are a little bit unusual in the Champions League final, but the way they got there and the season they've had,
But they're a force.
they're in the new stadium now.
Yep.
And as I understand it, I don't think they're going to be sort of paying that off for a long time. I think that
No.
might have been paid up in front, so they might actually even have more money than they used to having. Like they're in a good spot.
Yeah, but they've been messed around with the stadium business and all. That must have an effect. So
Yeah.
they won't have that next season. So it'll be interesting. But they're a force in Europe. They have been for a little while now. When they got put out by Juventus, was it in the quarterfinal a couple of seasons ago, whenever it was? It was disappointing. They
Yeah,
should have
yeah.
gone through. So, or maybe it was the second round. I can't remember.
There's never a
Definitely
game that
knockouts.
they think they won't win.
Yeah, so
and what a mentality that is to have instilled.
Yeah, did they not beat Real Madrid when Real Madrid won the
Did,
Champions
yes.
League? So, we say, well, they'll never get back to another final, quickly. We never
We don't know that, yeah.
Never know. Liverpool finished fourth last season, and who knows? Who bloody knows?